welcome to Watching the Throne, a lyrical analysis of Kanye West. I'm Travis Bean, your second favorite co-host of Watching the Throne, and I'm here to talk about Yeezus. I think Chris is going to be making a video too, but we're each counting down our top 10 songs. I guess there's only 10 of them. We're ranking every song on Yeezus. And this was incredibly difficult for me to do because I think every single song on Yeezus is amazing, and I think it might be Kanye West's best album. It could be the best album of all time. So putting them in an order was incredibly difficult, and I know it's going to piss pretty much everyone off because I have some off-kilter takes when it comes to Kanye. So if you really hate this video, just jump over to Chris's where he'll have Blood in the Leaves at the #1 spot, I'm sure. And you can feel good about yourself. You can feel good about what Watching the Throne, the energy Watching the Throne is putting out in the world, and feel good knowing that most people like Chris more anyway, so I will continue to take the brunt of the hate. Before we move forward, just a big quick reminder, our Patreon page, patreon.com/Kanye Podcast. You can support us there. That's the only real support we get. We don't run ads in the show or anything. That and YouTube, I guess, is all the money we really get, but we don't get a ton of money from YouTube, so Patreon is actually where we get the most support. We put out 2 bonus episodes each week, so you get that and you get our entire back catalog. We've talked about 120 different Kanye songs, and you can help us decide on future themes for the show for future seasons. So if you could support us there, that'd be great. But anyway, let's go to Yeezus. The only one I'm actually really sure about are like the number 10 song and then the number 1 and 2. Everything in between, like as far as I'm concerned, it's a fucking toss-up. Like all of these songs are incredible. It just really comes down to like personal taste and like what I prefer. So I'm just gonna jump right in. Number 10 for me is Send It Up. I love Send It Up. I love King Louis. God, am I forgetting his name? King Louis, yeah. Fucking awesome verse. And actually, before I move forward for this, everyone who listens to the podcast or has watched the channel knows that we love Kanye because he tells narratives, and Yeezus is a top-down, incredible narrative of this man overcoming his personal hardships and looking for love and eventually finding love. I'm bound to. And so a lot of the reasons I have these songs placed where they are is because of that narrative and how they fit in. Send It Up is kind of like both sonically and narratively, like just kind of on the bottom for me, because it's the moment that we see in the hero's journey known as a regression, where Kanye, if he's the hero in this case, in the hero's journey, it's the moment where towards the end of the story, he almost goes back to his old ways. So he almost regresses to that on-site state where he's a fucking egotistical maniac who's running around the club, fucking whoever he wants and spilling drinks everywhere, I'm sure, stomping his boots out on the couch like Charlie Murphy. Or not like Charlie Murphy, like Rick James. So Send It Up represents that. It's kind of like in Billy Madison when Chris always uses Billy Madison as an example, but it actually is pretty easy. It's like when Billy almost gives up on school and goes back to his father's mansion and just drinks himself silly. Like you usually see that. And I think I just kind of find it like tropish and not always that interesting. And on top of it, Send It Up is like kind of, I love the way it sounds, but it's kind of a simple song compared to the rest of the album, like Blood on the Leaves. So because of that, I have it at number 10. Number 9, this actually blew my mind because I think at one time I would have said Black Skinhead is easily like a top 3 Yeezus song. But as I kept making the rankings, I realized that Black Skinhead is number 9 for me. And I love Black Skinhead to death. When Kanye sings Black Skinhead on SNL with that whole different verse and all of the visuals going on, like it's a top tier Kanye moment as far as I'm concerned. That and the New Slaves he did on SNL. But when it comes down to it, I don't know what it is. Like it doesn't hold up as much as some of the other songs. Like some of the other songs are more epic. Some of the other songs I love them because they're really underrated, like Guilt Trip. And Black Skinhead doesn't really hold any like sentimental value to me. It seems weird to say any Yeezus song would hold sentimental value, but I feel like this entire album does, because I always felt like I got it from the get-go, from the very beginning when everyone was hating on it. So I always felt a special connection to this album. Maybe that's what it is that Black Skinhead was a single and everybody knew it and it had a music video, and it wasn't like my song. So I guess that could be it. But yeah, that's the way it is. Number 8 is Guilt Trip for me. To this day, I think is probably one of the most overhated Kanye songs. I don't even know if it's hated. I think it's more like underappreciated. I think for a long time it was just considered the weakest track on Yeezus. And then over time, people have come to realize how, I don't want to say progressive, but it was a little bit ahead of its time, and it kind of combined a lot of the quieter elements that we knew about Kanye up to this point, like the outro and Runaway, or like the sound of 808s. Like he really taps into like this very vulnerable sound. I think that's why I love the song, is the song is so achingly vulnerable. And I love the lyrics, the Capricorn talk, the way Kanye plays with zodiac signs to show that he's not meant for this woman. And it's an eventual build to him being the one for Kim, his and Kim's zodiac signs are compatible. Like there's all this weird nuance to the song that I don't think is like immediately seeable on the surface. So I've grown to love this song over the years and like realize like all that it has to offer, and I love the sound of it. Like I love songs that sound like that, and Kanye does it fucking immaculately. So number 8, this is Where You Hate Me. Number 7 is Blood on the Leaves. I've talked about this in the show before. I know everyone loves Blood on the Leaves. It's considered one of Kanye's best songs. And before I even get into this, I need to take a quick sip of whiskey because I'm really scared what's going on. By the way, I'm really sorry about my hair. I took a nap like a couple hours ago, and I now have a apparently permanent bedhead. That's not going anywhere. So I tried to fix it like a billion times before I hit play, and the second I hit play, it flopped over. So deal with it. Yeah, Blood on the Leaves. I've defended it on the show before because every time I tell Chris I don't love Blood on the Leaves that much, he has a spasm. And for me, really what it is, and this sounds probably insane to some people, but like it's too epic for me. Like it's not that I think Kanye's trying to do anything, but sometimes it feels like a song that's trying too hard to be like a grand epic, like a Gone with the Wind's a terrible example to use in this day and age, but kind of like a Gone with the Wind of music, like this thing that is like more than a song, you know, like something that transcends and like is paving a new way for music. Like it's so many things packed into one song that it's admirable, and I love it. Like it's number 7 for me, and everything above 10, like I think are the best songs ever. But I just I think it's just the sound of it for me, like all the horns and just like the general tone and feel. But I love all the places the song goes. I love how he dips between like looking in the past and this like hurt and pain he feels with this woman that he lost, comparing it to today and how men and women rip each other apart, and using this happens all the time, by the way, using the sample. Why am I blanking on the sample? I can't even look it up because I don't have my computer in front of me, but just the blood on the leaves and like what that represented back then, like the idea of lynching, and now men and women essentially lynch each other, like the way he's using that imagery to reflect the times and then reflect that back on himself and how he's treated women that way. It's an incredible song full of layers and nuance, but it's number 7. Number 6 is New Slaves. New Slaves to me is like a special song to watch in the throne, because I feel like we realized some things about it that maybe some people had talked about. The outro of New Slaves had talked about the Hungarian song and how it talks about this woman like rising from the lake and being this like sort of this angelic figure who's going to save humanity. Like maybe people had talked about that and what it meant to the album, but I had never heard anything like it. And Chris and I kind of stumbled onto that theory all on our own. And if you don't know, there's a Hungarian song by the band Omega that plays in the outro where Kanye gets high. Well, the whole song, the whole song, it starts in this place where Kanye, he's looking around and he sees that there's this new generation of new slaves, and people are, it's everything he's talked about going all the way back to All Falls Down. He's always talked about this, how people are slaves to corporations, to brands, to wealth, to chasing this idea of what you're supposed to be. And Kanye stands above all that, saying like I see what these brands and corporations are doing to people, and I need to lead a revolution against them. Like, I need to get all these people on my side to go against the CEOs and everybody that's trying to keep society in this place. And throughout the course of the song, we see Kanye is not really able to do it, which is a big motif on the first 4 songs of the album, is Kanye trying to like reach out to people and trying to connect to people, but constantly failing to do it. And in New Slaves, it really reaches a climax where he can't, so he just gets high at the end of the song, and the song completely shifts in sound and tone, and it goes into this Hungarian outro, where in Hungarian, they say, out of the green somber lake, she did rise. I should have it pulled up, but I don't. And it's this sort of like mythological moment where Kanye's creating this world where he can't create the greater change he thought he could, or at least it's not as easy as he thought it would be, or maybe he's not in the right place to be that kind of leader right now. He needs somebody in his life who stabilizes him. And that's what this woman, this mythologized woman, represents, and what it's all building to really in the whole album, all of Build the Bound 2. And that's what I just love this song and how dynamic it is and how it goes through those weird places. I love when Kanye gets weird. So New Slaves has always had a special place for me. Number 5 is On Sight. Love On Sight to death. I don't even know what you have to say about it. Like, I don't know if there is a better intro to an album besides Ultra Light Beam. Go figure. I love the energy right out of the gate. It's unapologetic. It's brazen. It just like, it's Yeezus right out of the gate. Like, it doesn't stop, and it launches you into Yeezus' world, and it shows you how much of an asshole Yeezus is. Like, what an amazing start to an album. Again, to quote Chris, it's a lot like Billy Madison, where it starts out with Billy in the pool, getting drunk, being an idiot, and chasing a penguin he imagined because he's apparently drunk at like 10 in the morning. So I love that. I love the energy coming right out of the gate. Always loved On Sight to death. And it's one of the best running songs ever. If you have a running mix, just put On Sight over and over and you'll have a PR, I'm sure. Number 4, Bound 2. I think I actually tend to gravitate towards the songs where Kanye is chasing love or finding love. That's why to this day, The Life of Pablo is still my favorite Kanye album and probably my favorite album ever. Because Chicago, by the way, a lot of shit going on, especially with the protests and a lot of cops running around. I always gravitate towards songs where Kanye's like expressing his love for Kim or discovering his love for Kim. And that's just something I've really connected to over the past several years as I've been in a growing, budding relationship. We're going on 12 years now. Got married a year and a half ago. And I just connect so much to that, and especially Bound 2, because The Life of Pablo is all about Kanye overcoming his ego and overcoming his addiction to these vices that celebrity presents. But on Bound 2, he's still Yeezus. Don't get spunk on the meat. Like, he is not fucking around. He loves Kim. He loves this woman he's with, but he's clearly like in a transition stage. Or it needs to get to the transition. He's still probably not even transitioning at this point. He is fully Yeezus. And I love that about it. Like, I connect more to The Life of Pablo and the idea of like confronting yourself and reckoning with your faults and becoming a better person to your other half. Like, that's what I really connect with on The Life of Pablo. But on Yeezus, like, I also really connect with the idea that like you're this flawed person entering a relationship, and that's what Bound 2 is all about. And the way Kanye presents that. Like, he clearly loves this woman in his own weird Yeezusian way, where like he loves her, but like he's not always like respectful to her. It's strange. And then at the end of the song, like Jerome's in the house, watch your mouth. Jerome is a reference to Martin, the character Jerome, who is kind of like this super masculine, egotistical figure who, like, he's braggadocio to the max. Like everywhere he goes, he has to exhibit his manliness and his power. And to end the song like that, Jerome's in the house, watch your mouth. Like this idea that Kanye or Yeezus hasn't truly moved on. Like he's with the woman who for the entire album he's been chasing and trying to find that'll make him a fuller individual. But at the end of the day, he's Yeezus, and he's still tempted by everything celebrity presents, and that's a perfect lead into the life of Pablo, where we see Kanye struggling with that. But I love that Yeezus ends that way. Like it ends hopeful because he's with a woman, but it doesn't because like he is who he is, and he still has a lot to learn. And I just think that's an incredible way to end an album. And I love the sound of that song, and I love the music video, and I love Seth Rogen and James Franco's parody of the music video. I Am a God is my number 3. For a long time, I Am a God was my number 1 Kanye song, period. I still think his second verse might be his best verse. I know Kanye himself thinks New Slaves is his best verse, but man, I Am a God, like the ferocity, the bite he has, the chip on his shoulder, and his ego inflates to the point where he literally has a conversation with Jesus. Like, to say there's no other song like it is an understatement. There definitely is not another song like I Am a God by Kanye or anyone else. It's just such a, I don't know, I find this is so weird because like often when I say I find a Kanye song moving, it's a song like I Am a God, which should not be moving in theory, but I do find a song like this very moving. Like somebody who puts so much time and attention into like minute details of a song, like the scream that comes out, and how like you think Kanye's ego is through the roof, yet he can't get his croissants, he can't get a Minaj, and then he starts screaming because he's like running around in a dark alleyway or something. That sounds like who is this guy who presents himself as such an otherworldly, powerful figure, yet can't get these simple things in his life and is screaming all the time? It's just such a beautiful kind of cinematic way to portray a character for a musical album. So, and I always recognized that from the get-go, and maybe I was always confused by I Am a God at first, but now it just like, it makes so much sense to me, and all of the parts fit so well. And I think the best part is like, it's musical. Like I can listen to this song as a song. It's not like it's kind of not how I feel about Blood in the Leaves. Like I don't get excited to sit down and listen to Blood in the Leaves like I do like I Am a God. Like I feel like there's more packed in there, more to understand and more to unpack. And did I say unpack twice? I don't know. I love it. Number 2, I actually really had to think about this one because for a while, I would say for a couple of years, I said I'm In It was my number 1 Yeezus song and maybe my number 1 Kanye song. But as I was sitting here thinking about it, I think slowly for the past several months, I've kind of just realized that Hold My Liquor is my favorite. And that, well, I guess I'll talk about I'm In It first. I'm In It's my number 2 right now. That could change next week. But I'm In It, I mean, if I Am a God has Kanye's best verse, I'm In It probably has his number 2 verse, that whole outro at the end. I mean, at this point in the album, Kanye's like chasing the woman he loves, or he's trying to find a connection with somebody. And Hold My Liquor is this woman from his past, and I'm In It is this woman who kind of satisfies his sexual desires in the present. Somebody who massages his ego and lets him be who he wants to be. Hold My Liquor is all about Kanye moving past, or it's all about who Kanye has become and how he isn't this person he used to be that could have been with this woman who's moved on. I guess I'll just talk about both songs at the same time. And I love how Hold My Liquor and I'm In It play off each other in that way, where Hold My Liquor, and Kanye's so conscious of it. And again, it's a very cinematic way he shows the juxtaposition between those songs. Like Hold My Liquor kicks off with Bon Iver, which represents this like sort of brooding hipster figure, kind of, you know? Like he sings a folk song and he's auto-tuned and it's slow and it's drawing and he's getting high. It's this vulnerable side of Yeezus. And then we switch to Chief Keef, who is the, you know, aggro masculine side of Yeezus, who doesn't fuck with bitches, who has his crew, who's getting drunk, who like is set in his ways. And those two dueling personalities come together, and we go into Kanye in this scene where he's waking up on this woman's couch, hanging on a hangover, like goes through this whole like internal mental process where he thinks about like who they used to be and why they didn't work out. And then like you can see that he's kind of getting vulnerable and like thinking about his faults, but then the aunt comes in and she's pressuring him and he builds back up, and the song ends in "Bitch, back out my coma," and like he's right back into the way he was, like, and that's a lead into "I'm in It," where he's ready to be Yeezus again. But that doesn't mean that pain and that desire to be someone else, maybe that desire to get back to your old ways and before you were overcome by celebrity, like that's there the entire time in "I'm in It" because of "Hold My Liquor." And "I'm in It" is this song where he's just like to the max, like Yeezus, like having crazy sex with this woman, not really getting anything out of it. Like he and this woman, the connection they share isn't anything like super fulfilling. The connection's there, and you can tell that he's looking for a connection, but it's not like what he used to have with this woman from "Hold My Liquor." It's now the connection Yeezus can get because of what he's become. The way those songs play off each other, like that's probably why like they're just tied for number one, I guess, at this point, because like to me they're so dear to each other and they represent like such an important moment in the Yeezus journey. If I had to pick one for number one, I would pick "Hold My Liquor" just because of the way it sounds, that guitar solo, that outro. I mean, Jesus, the way it crescendos and fades out, like it's incredible. Although the outro of "I'm in It" is also fucking amazing. Michael took us at the car now. I don't even want to get into it. We all know how amazing it is. But okay, that's my top 10. Hopefully you don't hate me too much for putting "Blood in the Leaves" at number 7. I almost put "Guilt Trip" above "Blood in the Leaves," by the way. That was a really tough call for me. And I only really didn't do it because I knew you would judge me about it. And it seemed like too much of a move. But if you weren't looking at me right now, I might actually just switch them. But for now, we'll leave "Blood in the Leaves" at number 7. Thanks for watching. Again, support us on Patreon. It helps a lot. And please listen to the show. We're going to have a revamped format coming up soon. We used to go song by song and go line by line through each song. And we're going to be taking more of a broader approach with more perspectives coming in. I don't know. We'll see. We're still working on what it means. But for now, that's it. Stay wavy, keep it loopy, all that jazz.